The sound of his hand connecting with my face was louder than the applause. It echoed through the stadium speakers like a gunshot. My father did not just slap me. He tried to erase me. Get off this stage. He hissed into the hot microphone, his face twisted. In a way I had never seen before, you are making a fool of us. My mother was screaming from the front row, clutching her pearls like she was the victim. The crowd of 5,000 people went dead silent. My cheek burned like fire, but my mind was freezing cold. For the first time in my life, I did not feel fear. I felt clarity too. Understand why I did not cry and why I did not run. You have to understand who I was before the slap. My name is Clara Vance. For 22 years, I was the ghost in my own house. My brother Julian was the sun, and I was just the cold orbit around him. Julian was born special according to my mother. He was a genius, an artist, a visionary. I was just Clara, reliable, quiet Clara. When Julian failed a math test, it was because the teacher was incompetent. When I got straight, as it was because I had no social life. I learned early that my achievements were invisible. If I won a science fair, nobody came. If Julian learned 3 chords on the guitar, the whole family threw a dinner party. I stopped asking them to look at me, started building a life in the dark. I worked 3 jobs during university. I took the night shift at the research lab. I graded papers for professors who actually knew my name. My parents thought they were paying for my education, but the truth was they stopped sending checks 3 years ago. When Julian needed seed money for his 3rd failed startup, they just assumed I was getting by on their name on. The morning of graduation, I stood in my tiny off-campus apartment adjusting the heavy velvet robe. I had rented it with the last of my tips from the coffee shop. I looked in the mirror, and for a split second, I allowed myself a dangerous hope. Maybe today would be different. Maybe when they heard my name, they would finally see me. That hope died the moment I got into the car. My mother did not look at Mesh, was busy fixing Julian's tie, even though he was 25 years old and hungover. Are we sure this is going to take long? My father grumbled, tapping the steering wheel. I have a tea time at 3. Clara, just get your diploma and come down. Do not try to make a scene making a scene. The irony is funny now. At the stadium, families were hugging, fathers were crying, mothers were holding signs with glitter glue. I walked 10 feet behind my family, watching them ignore me. Julian was laughing at a text message. Mom was complaining about the humidity ruining her hair. I was about to graduate top of my class, and I felt like an intruder at my own funeral. When we got to the seating area, my father grabbed my arm. His grip was tight, painful. Listen to me, he said, his voice low and dangerous. We saw the program. Why is your name listed first? Because I am the valedictorian, Dad. I whispered. His eyes went cold. He did not smile. He did not say congratulations. He looked at me like I had stolen something. You think you are better than your brother. He spat the words out. Do not think for a second that this makes you special. You get up there, you grab the paper, and you sit down. Do not embarrass Julian. I walked to the staging area with ice in my veins. I stood in line with the other honors students. They were buzzing with excitement. I was focusing on breathing. When the dean approached the podium, the stadium hushed. It is my distinct honor to introduce this year's valedictorian, he announced. Clara Vance. The applause started as a rumble and grew into a roar. I walked up the stairs. My legs felt heavy, but my head was high. I reached the center of the stage and reached for the microphone. I had a speech prepared about resilience, about finding your own light. But before I could speak the first word, I saw movement in my peripheral vision. My father was storming up the stairs. He was red-faced and he was fast. Security was too slow. He marched right up to the podium. You are a fraud, he screamed over the stunned crowd. You are nothing. And then he raised his hand. The impact knocked the breath out of me. Head snapped to the side, and the world went blurry for a second. I tasted copper in my mouth. The microphone caught the sound of the slap and amplified Ida. Sickening crack that bounced off the stadium walls. 3 seconds, nobody moved. It was as if the entire world had paused to process what had just happened. Then the chaos broke. Security guards were sprinting up the stairs. My mother was screaming from the front row, not at him, but at them. Do not touch him, she shrieked. He is upset. My father stood there, chest heaving, looking at me with pure hatred. I told you, he hissed. I told you not to embarrass us. And in that moment, staring at the man who had raised me, I felt the last thread of attachment snap. It was a clean break. I did not cry. I did not scream back. I just straightened my posture and looked him in the eye. Security reached him, then grabbing his arms, he fought them, shouting that he had rights, that I was ungrateful, that I was a liar. As they dragged him off the stage, the dean rushed to my side. Miss Vance, are you all right? Do you need a Medici? Touched my cheek, which was already swelling. I am fine, I said, and my voice was steady cold. Even I walked back to the podium. My father wanted to stop me from speaking. He wanted to silence me, so I finished the ceremony. I shook the dean's hand. He took my diploma. And I walked off the stage to a standing ovation that felt like a riot, but I did not go back to my seat. I did not go looking for my family in the crowd. I walked straight out of the stadium. I left the gown on a chair in the tunnel. I walked across the manicured lawn, past the happy families taking photos, and straight into the administration building. The hallway was quiet. The fluorescent lights hummed. I found the bursar's office and rang the bell until a startled clerk appeared. I need my financial records, I said. The full history, every payment, every loan, every scholarship. She looked at my bruising face and did not ask questions. She just printed the pages. I took the stack of papers to my car and drove to my apartment. I sat on the floor and laid them out like a map of my life. Tuition paid by Clara Vance via student loan, lab fees paid by Clara Vance via work-study program, housing paid by Clara Vance via cash deposit. There was not a single cent from Robert or Sylvia Vance. They had spent years telling everyone they were supporting me. They had used my education as a tax write-off, but the records proved they were lying. I felt a cold rage building in my chest. It was not the hot, explosive anger my father had. It was something surgical. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out a manila envelope. My parents had given it to me last Christmas. It contained legal documents, emergency power of attorney, asset management, proxy. They had signed them because they were traveling to Europe for a month and needed someone to handle their affairs if anything went wrong. They picked me because I was the responsible one, the one who followed orders, the one they could trust to never touch a dime. Dad had said, just keep these safe, Clara. You never know when we might need you to handle things. I looked at the signatures, notarized, valid, indefinite. Until revoked in writing, my father had just assaulted me on live television. My mother was likely bailing him out right now using the family trust fund. They thought I was powerless. They thought I was just a punching bag they could discard when I got too shiny. They forgot that they had legally handed me the keys to the castle. I picked up my phone and dialed the number for the family wealth manager. He answered on the second ring. Hello, this is Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson, this is Clara Vance, I said, staring at the document in my hand. I am invoking the emergency proxy. We need to freeze everything right now. Mr. Henderson hesitated on the other end of the line. Miss Vance, invoking the proxy is a serious step. Your parents usually handle these decisions themselves, I understand. Mr. Henderson, but there has been an incident. My father has been arrested for assault. Need to secure the family assets before any impulsive decisions are made that could jeopardize the estate. There was a long silence. The kind of silence where you can hear a pin drop. Mr. Henderson was a practical man. He cared about numbers, not feelings, and the numbers told him that a man arrested for public assault was a liability. I have the police report number if you need ID. Added my voice, calm and helpful. No, that will not be necessary. I saw the news, Miss Vance. It is all over the local channels. I will authorize the freeze immediately. What are your instructions? Move the liquid assets into the secure holding trust. I said, the one that requires 2 signatures to unlock my signature, and there's effective. Immediately done, he said. I hung up the phone and leaned back against the wall. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but my hands were steady. I was not stealing their money. I was doing exactly what the document said. I was acting in the best interest of the estate during an emergency. And my father losing his mind on national television was definitely an emergency. An hour later, I walked into the bank downtown. My cheek was throbbing and turning a deep purple. The teller gasped when she saw me. Need to open a new personal account, I said, completely separate from any family trusts. While she processed the paperwork, I checked my phone. The world had exploded. The video of the slap had hit Twitter, and TikTok valedictorian assault was trending #1 globally. Millions of people had watched my father storm the stage. They dissected his rage. They analyzed my mother's screaming, but mostly they talked about my silence, how I stood there, how I took the hit, how I kept going. Strangers were finding my Instagram, leaving comments of support, offering to pay for my legal fees. My brother Julian had posted a frantic status update. Everyone calmed down. It was a family misunderstanding. My sister provoked him. The comments underneath were eating him alive. People were digging up his failed businesses. They were finding his arrest records for DUI. The internet was doing the work for me. Pause for a moment. I want to know what you guys think. Freezing their assets while my dad was in jail, was I being too harsh? Or was I just playing by their rules? Tell me in the comments. That evening I sat in a hotel room I had paid for with my own money. I watched The news on mute, my father had made bail, or at least he tried to. I got the notification on my phone at 8 p.m. Attempted transaction. $50,000. Declined reason. Account frozen by proxy authority 10 minutes later. My phone started ringing. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. Then Julian called. I let it ring, then a number I did not recognize, probably a lawyer. I turned the phone off and threw it on the bed. They were realizing that the ghost in the house had keys to all the doors. The next morning, I went to the courthouse to file a restraining order. The clerk looked at the video on her tablet, then looked at my face. Judge, we'll sign this immediately, she said, handing me the forms. As I walked out into the sunlight, I felt lighter than I had in years. I had no family. I had no home, but I had control. I checked my email. There was a message from the dean of the university. Subject: job offer. He had a colleague in Chicago running a research lab. They needed someone diligent, someone who could handle pressure, someone who did not break. I booked a one-way ticket. I stopped by the apartment one last time to pack my things. Roommates were looking at me like I was a celebrity. I packed 2 suitcases, my clothes, my books, and the framed photo of me receiving my diploma with a bruise on my cheek. I left the keys on the counter. I did not leave a note as I was loading the car. A black Mercedes screeched into the parking lot. My father jumped out. He looked disheveled. His tie was loose. His eyes were wild. Clara. He roared, "What have you done? You unlock the accounts right now." I stood by the driver's side door and watched him run toward me. He stopped 10 feet away, panting. He looked smaller than he had on stage. "You stole our money," he screamed. "He did not steal anything." I said, "I am protecting the estate. Dad, just like you asked me to. You are unstable. You assaulted a young woman in public. Who knows what you might do with the money? I'm just being responsible." His face turned that dangerous shade of red again. "I will sue you. I will bury you." "Go ahead," I said, opening the car door. "But lawyers cost money and you do not have access to any." I left him screaming in the parking lot and drove 12 hours straight. I did not look in the rearview mirror. I watched the landscape change from the suffocating suburbs of my childhood to the flat open plains of the Midwest. Chicago felt like a different planet. The air was colder, sharper. It felt like it was scrubbing me clean. I walked into my new research lab on a Tuesday morning. My boss, Dr. Reese, was a woman of few words. She looked at my resume, then she looked at me. "Do not care about your family drama, Clara," she said. "I saw the video. I also saw your GPA and your research papers. Can you work?" "I can work," I said. "Then get to it." The first time in my life I was judged solely on what I produced, not who my brother was, not what my father wanted, just the data. I thrived. I spent my days running models and my nights exploring a city where nobody knew my name. I ignored the emails from my mother. I ignored the voicemails from Julian begging for money. I ignored the legal threats from my father's lawyer. Because I knew they were empty. I had already released the trust fund back to their control 2 weeks after I left. I did not want their money. I just wanted to show them that I could take it if I wanted to. I wanted them to feel the fear of being powerless, but they could not let it go. 3 months later, I was walking through the lobby of my office building. I saw them sitting on the waiting bench. My father looked 10 years older. His suit was wrinkled. My mother was twisting a tissue in her hands. They stood up when they saw me. "Clara," my mother said, and her voice was thin, fragile. "Please, we just want to talk." I stopped. I did not hide. I stood my ground in the center of the lobby. "You can talk from there," I said. My father took a step forward, but stopped. When the security guard shifted his stance, "Clara, we made a mistake," he said. "The investigation into the assault, the viral video, it is ruining. My practice clients are leaving. We need you to make a statement. We need you to tell people it was a misunderstanding." Laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "You want me to lie for you?" Again, "No, sweetheart," Mom said. "We want you to help the family. We are all suffering." Julian had to sell his car. I looked at them and I realized something profound. They did not miss me. They missed the version of me that was convenient. They missed the daughter who stayed quiet and fixed their problems. "That daughter is gone," I said. "She died on that stage. You killed." Harry pulled a manila envelope from my bogey, had been carrying it around for weeks. Waiting for this moment, I held it out. "What is this, Dad?" "Asked receipts," I said. "Every tuition payment I made, every loan I took out in my own name, proof that I owe you absolutely nothing." I dropped the envelope on the floor between us. My father looked at it. Then back at me. "Clara, please, we are your parents." "No," I said, turning toward the elevators. "You were my landlords, and I moved out." I walked away, and I did not look back. I heard my mother crying, but it sounded distant, like it was coming from a TV in another room. That night, I got a text from Julian. "Mom says you are dead to us." Hope you're happy. I looked at the message, then I opened my photos. I found the screenshot of the slap the moment his hand connected with my face. I sent it to him with one word, ecstatic. Then I blocked his number. I blocked my parents. I blocked the cousins who had stayed silent. I sat on my balcony overlooking the Chicago skyline. The city lights were blinking below me like a million little stars. I was alone. I had no safety net. I had no inheritance, but I had something better. I had the truth, and for the first time in 22 years, the silence in my head was not lonely. It was peaceful. My name is Clara Vance. I am a scientist. I am a survivor. And I am finally the main character of my own life. If you have ever had to burn a bridge to save yourself, hit that like button, and if you believe that living well is the best revenge, subscribe to the channel. We are building an empire of survivors, and we want you with us.